Very excited to be here in the inaugural Pac-12 championship game. Obviously, we're here under some unique circumstances, but here nonetheless. And we look forward to playing our best. It will take that to be competitive against a highly talented and highly explosive operation in the University of Oregon. Chip Kelly's to be congratulated for the juggernaut that he's created here, and but it's a great opportunity for us to be in this, as I said, the inaugural game, and we look forward to putting our best foot forward, and hopefully we won't disappoint. Questions? Given
the events of the last week, what did it mean yesterday for you personally to be carried off that football field by your players?
Oh, that was something I'll have forever. You know, this is a business where you don't necessarily get to work for instant gratification. You got to work for delayed gratification, in that you try to create relationships with players, but it's always about, you know, trying to push and prod and get them to be not only the best players they can be, but also the best people they can be. And so to be thought of the way I was thought of, at least for that moment, is very, very rewarding, and something that I will, as I said, have forever.
Coach, as someone who's been around the conference for a number of years, do you have any thoughts on why there's been so many coaching changes this particular year as opposed to years where there's been a fair amount of stability?
Oh, I think coaching changes are cyclical. You know, it just happens that the wheel stopped on a couple of places in this conference for this particular year. You know, these are tough. This is a tough occupation, because not only do you have to avoid the pitfalls that have fallen on some other programs that are outside the lines, but also you have to be very successful inside the lines. And unfortunately, I wasn't successful enough. And the other thing that's happening in college football today, as opposed maybe than years and years ago, is the perception of the programs becomes so important. And if you have a bad night that's a nationally televised game or something like that, the perception can get going down a slippery slope that's sometimes hard to stop. And you know, I understand the predicament those who make these decisions find themselves in, because of the need for outside revenue to support programs. You know, football can sustain itself, but the rest of the sports cannot, and they're equally as important. So to keep things going, you have to have the support of the generous donors that exist around the country, and those generous donors also have opinions and perceptions, and so those have to be weighed into the equation. And so there's going to be more volatility with respect to the hiring and firing of guys in my position. It's just part of the deal.
Coach, back here in the back.
Yeah.
How back here, straight back? How
standing? There you go.
Standing. Sorry.
You're dual. You're a dual guy.
There you go.
Shooting it and asking the questions.
How difficult has it been coming off the USC loss, a really disappointing loss, to come here and play in this game? It's a quick turnaround, but is it difficult mentally?
I made the point to the team at the conclusion of the, as you mentioned, difficult and embarrassing loss to USC, that we didn't have time to wallow in self-pity. We didn't have the luxury of that. We didn't have time to, you know, go through the carnage that was that evening. We had to get about the next chore, which was getting ready for this game. There'll be time to analyze what exactly took place. There were certainly a number of opportunities to keep that game competitive, and we squandered them. The opening drive to answer their early touchdown, we got down to the 1-yard line and didn't get it in. So, but the point is, we didn't have time to worry about that. And we do have experience in getting up off the mat. We've done it before. We had a very difficult loss in Tucson on a Thursday night and came back the very next outing and beat a talented Cal team, and then followed that up with victory over a very talented Arizona State team. So we have experience under our belt to lend itself to getting up, finding yourself, and playing much better football. And hopefully that'll be the case again tomorrow night.
Kind of related to that, how about when something bad, I mean, because of the circumstances, or with you and just coming off the USC game, when something bad inevitably will happen tomorrow night during the game. How do you keep it from
steamrolling,
snowballing?
Yeah. Well, that's a predicament that we have to find our way out of. There's no question. We are not going to contain Oregon for 60 minutes. They're too explosive a team. They're going to make their share of plays. But we have to be able to respond, whether it be with our offense going out there and matching, or whether our defense has to go out there and get them stopped the next time. Someone's got to rise up and make those plays if we expect to be competitive tomorrow night. And everybody ought to be looking forward to being that one, that guy who makes the play that gets the tide stemmed. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about. Finding the resolve to get this done. We've been about being relentlessly positive since I arrived there 4 years ago. And we knew that this was going to be a tough road with respect to getting it all the way back to where we want to be. And yet, despite all the difficulty and all the adversity, whether on the field or off, or with injuries or the like, we're a game away from playing in a Rose Bowl, which is the amazing thing about all of this. And so we're going to take our swings.
Coach, has Oregon's ascension, Stanford to a certain degree, been part of the reason why UCLA has not been what you wanted it to be when you took over 4 years ago? And obviously USC is there as a factor as well.
I think everybody has to look at their own circumstance individually. I don't think you can look around the country and point at them as a reason for your own situation. I think there are many examples around the country of people who've said, this is where we want to go, and this is how we're getting there, and then have executed the plan. For whatever reason, we've not been one of those. And right now the axe falls on my head as the reason. And I'm big enough and sturdy enough to accept that assessment. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I accept it, and I hope nothing but good things for UCLA football in the future.
Back right.
Obviously, you are in the midst of preparing for tomorrow's game, but have you heard any interest from other programs?
I really haven't. I've gotten a lot of well wishes, from folks. You're doing a nice job handling the adversity and all that kind of stuff. But I have not responded to all that stuff because there's a game at hand. And one of the things we've preached throughout my tenure at UCLA is that tough times don't last, tough people do, and finish what you start. It's all about commitment, and ultimately commitment is just that, finishing what you start. And so I was excited that I got to stay in my role as head coach for this particular game and to do just that, see if we can't find a little lightning in a bottle and make this a game.
Rick, this week, has there been a moment where it's kind of hit you that this whole thing is kind of surreal? Oh,
no question. I've used that word many times this week. Because as you're getting ready to play the inaugural Pac-12 championship game, there aren't very many people who are doing that at the same time going, this is the last time I get to coach on this field. And being that UCLA is my alma mater, it's a definite hard pill to swallow. Wanting so desperately to have provided the leadership that could take us back to the throne and falling short. So that's been tough, but I guess almost as a silver lining, I've gotten this other stuff to concentrate on, and it's been welcome in that I can focus on game plans, I can focus on the normal preparation that a game week needs, and is my responsibility, and we go forward. When it's all said and done, regardless of the outcome, that's going to be when it's going to be a little bit more, wow, what just took place?
Hey, Coach, back here.
Yes.
As far as the game itself tomorrow night, the matchup, how do you go about trying to contain Oregon's offense? And then could you give us your thoughts about, what they've done defensively too this year?
Well, offensively, they are a juggernaut because of the pace at which they play and the athletes with which they play. And I don't mean this is disparaging, and I think if Chip were here, he'd agree. It's not overly complicated. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't have great coaching, and it's about pace, and it's about the frenetic speed that defenses are required to play with. And when you're a defense, not only are you having to get your call and try to assess what the formation is in that long, but you also have to trust everybody else, the other 10 guys on the field with you, are doing the same. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're not sure, because you didn't have a huddle, to make sure everybody's got the right calls and trusting that everybody else. Invariably, when you watch Oregon's offense perform, especially when they get going and they look like a slot machine, when they get going like that, it's because defenses their eyes aren't right, their cleats aren't in the ground when the play starts, and they're late. And then you add the great athletes that are getting the ball, whether it be LaMichael James or DeAnthony Thomas or Kenyon Barner, and the list goes on and on. Whoever's got the rock, they are around the corner, and when someone's, are you sure that's the call? And now you add fatigue to the mix. So it's a tall order, and it's not something people practice year round, except for Oregon. They practice it year round. So it's a tremendous challenge. And yet, if it were easy, everybody'd do it. So we're excited to get our chance.
What about their defense?
Defensively, Nick Alioti's been a long-time coordinator in this conference. He's extremely well respected. He's one of the good guys, if you will. He's kind of found different ways to blend his defense. He was a over front guy for years and years, and now he's into the odd front. But what he does is he finds a lot of fast athletes. The one thing that's true on both sides of the ball for Oregon is speed. And they come at you in waves. And they have the fortune, over the course of the last several years to be really aggressive because their offense plays normally ahead. And so they can come at you. And that's why sometimes little plays that probably on the drawing board don't look like big plays can become big plays against them because they can bust things because they're going so fast. But they seem to overcome that because, again, of their offense and also their defensive speed. So it's our job tomorrow night to, if you're using the analogy of tennis, to try to hold serve and find a way to punch and punch and punch. But we have to do much better than we did a week ago. We were oftentimes in the red zone, but we got to score. And that gives us our only chance.
Coach, back here in the back. Oh. Once again, back here at the cameras.
I'm sorry.
Coach Kelly was extremely complimentary of you this week during practice sessions here. Can you characterize your relationship with Coach Kelly, and how did preparations go for the team this week preparing for the juggernaut?
I'm a big fan of Chip Kelly's. I don't know of a finer job that's been done in college football over the last couple of years than the job that Chip's done. I mean, he went to a Rose Bowl in year one. He went to the national championship in year two. And here he is on the verge of another Rose Bowl in year three. He's recruited a bevy of fantastic athletes. He's built, I don't know how many times ESPN Game Day's been in Eugene, but it's been a lot. And there's a lot of people responsible for that, but he's the caretaker of it right now. And he's done a magnificent job. And I point back to that tough night they had in Boise as his first game as a head football coach, where I think is LeGarrette Blount had the episode at the end of the ball game. And I mean, you talk about coaching 101, going through all the tough things that head coaches have to go through in game one, and to find a way to right the ship and end up in the Rose Bowl and find a way to rehabilitate LeGarrette Blount to the point where now he's an NFL player and doing well. I mean, that's coaching at its finest. So hats off to Chip and the Oregon program. With respect to practice over the course of the week, we've tried to emulate that pace. And the way to do it is get 2 scout teams and just keep going like waves on a beach and just keep going at your defense and see if you can't gas them. Hopefully we didn't wear them out too much so they got some legs to play tomorrow night. But that's what you do. And on the other side, we were trying hard to feel like we can play a little keep away. You know, a year ago, my life, everything seems like a long time ago now. But a year ago, we came in here and the opening drive went right down the field. Unfortunately, ended it with an interception. And then 2 drives later went all the way down the field and ended with a field goal. So 2 of the first 3 drives, we made some significant progress in changing the field position of the game. We're going to have to finish those drives to stay in this ball game.
We'll take 2 more questions.
Say you guys come out, have an amazing performance, players play inspired, and you get that win, you win the Pac-12 championship. Have you thought at all about what your emotions will be having won that but not being able to coach them in the Rose Bowl?
Let's just stop with that point about winning. If you do that again, just say it one more time for me.
Have an amazing performance, inspired, and get the Pac-12 championship.
Just stop right there. Let's just hold on to that right there, and the rest of it will take care of itself. You know, you don't get in this business thinking you're going to fail. No one does that. You always believe that good things are going to happen, that you have the wherewithal and the mettle to get it accomplished. And I truly believe we were on course to do that. And that'll be the case tomorrow night. We're going to believe we can do this. Whether or not it transpires, time will tell, but we are going into the game believing that there's hope and that we can get this accomplished. And when someone tells you that it's time to leave, then we'll leave, as is the case with my career at UCLA. You know, someone's said it's time for me to go on. In my mind, it's just they stopped just a little short of where we were going to get, and that's just the way it'll be.
Final question.
Rick, what's a message that you're going to give to your team tonight?
That no matter what anybody says, and no matter what people say about asterisks or backdoors or anything like that, when I drove in here tonight, there was a big banner that said UCLA. That means we're playing in the Pac-12 championship game, the very first one. They can never take that away from us. And how we play tomorrow night is up to us. And if they are the kids that I believe they are, and they are, I've been through it with them too many times, they'll respond. Now, whether that's good enough, I don't know. But I know we'll come through that tunnel tomorrow night ready to play. And no one across the country will think there was only one football team out there.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Rick.